Welcome back to the High School Ref Show. This is episode 3, and we have a treat for you this week as we talk to a longtime basketball official, Randy Lockhart, who actually heard the show and reached out to me and wanted to talk about his experience on the court for 46 years of basketball officiating in multiple states. He just moved to Florida a few years ago, and we'll talk all about the current state of high school basketball officiating. And you'll also hear some stories from when he first got started reffing basketball 46 years ago and how things have changed just a little bit. But again, just want to thank all of you for watching the show and sharing it with your fellow officials. The feedback that I've received has been amazing. So without further ado, this is Randy Lockhart on the High School Ref Show. All right, I'm here with Randy Lockhart. Randy's been officiating basketball for, I think, Randy, you said 46 years is
Just
this
finished my
season.
46th season.
46 years. And Randy, you reached out to me, asking to really come on and chat here on the podcast. And I was super excited to have, an official with so much experience that you have come on and talk about officiating in basketball and kind of where we're at as an avocation for officials across the country. And I wonder if you first could just talk a little bit about yourself, tell us, really what's your career looked like in refereeing basketball at the high school and other levels?
Well, I started in 1980, and I started refereeing because I was good enough to play in college, but my grades in high school wouldn't allow me to get to college. So it was a way to get back to the game because I love basketball. I play it. I still play it when I can. And officiating was one way that I knew that I could stay involved in it. So my high school basketball coach became a referee, and he said, "Hey, this might be something you might be interested in." So in that year, my first game was with him actually as a JV official, and I was hooked. As soon as I blew my first call, I knew that I wanted to be a referee, and I've been doing it ever since. And I've had the opportunity to work for a lot of great coaches, a lot of good venues. I've seen a lot of great players. Basketball keeps me young. I have to. The kids don't get any older. We do. They just graduate, and another 17 or 18-year-old comes in, and meanwhile my clock is ticking. So it's been a great experience for me. I've made a lot of friends. You just learn how to handle situations too. It's helped me professionally in my everyday job when I was working.
Gotcha. So, and you've officiated in multiple states, right? I think you started in New York, is that right? And
Started
then,
in New York, and I worked most of my 46 years in New York. I moved to Pennsylvania in 2018 and worked in Pennsylvania. And then when I connected in PA with women's basketball college level. So I went to New York City, went to Connecticut, went to Delaware, of course, all of Pennsylvania. And it was just the traveling was just so much for the time I was still working. And it became really hard to get to games because the traffic and you have to be there a certain amount of time before, and you got things to do after. So that only lasted a couple of seasons for me before I had to. My boss at work said, either you're going to referee or you're going to work. So I chose work.
yeah. What's high school officiating for the vast majority of officials is a side hustle, right? It's not
Right.
normally the full-time gig. So can you talk a little bit about that? So what did you do for a living, and how did you fit basketball into, your schedule for 46 years?
Yeah, it's definitely a juggling act. You have to have an employer that understands, because sometimes when you start a game at 5 o'clock and you got to work to 5 o'clock, you have to have an employer that really does understand. And it worked for me because I did have that flexibility. I was a salesman on the road. I was in the alcohol business for many years. So for 30 years, I was in the alcohol business, and I moved up in the company, so I had the ability to make some of my own time. Whatever I couldn't do during that time that I had to be there, I could always go back to work, and I did that a lot. So I had some responsibilities that I could put off. My boss let me put them off until after my game. So I would do a JV game or a varsity game, and then actually come back into work at 8:30, 9 o'clock to finish up what I had to do earlier in the day.
Yeah.
So as long as I got it done, he didn't care, and it worked out for me. But it's a commitment, especially if you're, we didn't really have a shortage back then, but there was still a lot of games to go around because Section 5 in Rochester has like 110 schools that we serviced, and it was a huge area of New York, and we needed officials, and I tried to make myself as available as I can. A lot of officials when I started were school teachers, so they got off work, 2:30, 3 o'clock, and they got the vast majority of the games because they had the availability. I had to try to finagle my way to fit into that group.
Yeah. I mean, in our association here, we definitely have teachers. Obviously, we have a lot of retired officials as well that have obviously more availability. I do wonder, with the remote jobs kind of, being more and more prevalent now, if that is something that we will continue to see trending, with people maybe having a little more flexibility in their jobs because they're remote maybe and might be able to get away earlier for games, but I don't know if I've quite seen that yet here.
Yeah. The
So
remote jobs came after I retired,
gotcha.
from working. I retired in 23. I guess the remote jobs were a little bit before that, but not as prevalent as they are today. So today my availability is I'm available because,
Yeah.
I'm not beholden to any career anymore. I'm retired from actually working full time.
Yeah.
So my availability is tremendous, and my signer loves that because I could do the 2:30 kids game, and I can do the 6 o'clock varsity game. Doesn't matter where I go; I can go anywhere, which is really great. But I would think that the remote jobs have made it a little bit easier for officials to get the games.
Yeah. So if you go back to 1980, 81, that
Yeah,
first season of officiating. So was that first season of high school officiating? Was that first season of any officiating? And so what did that season look like? You said you kind of loved it as soon as you got on the court and blew a whistle. What did you love about it? What was that first year of kind of getting your feet wet like?
well, 80-81 was the first season, like you said, and it was a JV season. You had to work JV basketball. You couldn't just go out and just do a varsity game. You had to prove yourself, earn your stripes, if you will. And they tried to hook you up with a newer official. You'd try to work with an older veteran guy, and they would try to match you up as many games as possible. If you got 10 or 15 games with that person, you kind of leaned on them to be your mentor, and then you just hopefully you picked the right person and you evolved as an official and made it up to be a varsity official at some point in time. Being involved in the game is always something that I wanted to do, and I just knew that officiating was a part of it. Learning new things. I had to learn the game from an officiating standpoint, whereas before I was just a player. And playing the game helps as an official, but it's still different. When you're a player, sometimes you do things instinctively, and someone's always, or a coach is telling you, make this cut, do that, go back door. But as an official, we are anticipating the next play, not the call. But we don't never want to anticipate the call, but you want to anticipate the play. So we have to kind of know what's going on. It helped as a player to know what was coming next. And then we have to react, and you got that split second to blow the whistle. You better be right. And
Yeah.
I like the fact that I didn't mind being questioned because I got better, especially from coaches that knew the game and had been around it a long time. There was a coach up in Rochester who gave me a big break. He was a 30 or 40-year coach at a high school that, he took a chance on me to do their games, and it panned out for me. And my career in high school took off after that. I got to be, he's good. He can referee.
Yeah.
Let's use him more often, because coaches at the time in 1980 were doing the assigning.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Oh, I didn't
and
know that. So like
yeah, they were doing the assigning.
each like individual school was picking the officials for each game, and is that what you're
Coaches in each league, they would have a representative of each league would go to the games, and they would go around a round table. They would pick from one. If you had 8 teams, this coach would pick first, and then the second round he'd pick eighth, and they had their guys that they wanted, right? Some guys would go without games or 2 or 3 games for the year, and other guys would get 30, 40, 50 games per year. So I'm not saying it was a great system. I really think the system was terrible for
Yeah.
officials. And it's since changed, but it just changed recently, like in 2021, 2020. It's been like that up there for many, many years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've heard of that. I've heard of even my couple of years in Florida, I do remember coaches rating officials and that, somewhat playing a factor into either postseason assignments or something, but it wasn't the only factor. But I didn't realize that there were places that the coaches were drafting officials. I mean, that
They were
sounds like
drafting
a fantasy
officials.
football draft.
Yeah, that's exactly how it happened. They drafted you.
Wow.
And,
And then there's
you can
obviously
imagine the good old boy network, right?
that's what I was going to say. I mean, definitely the incentive then to, not give technical fouls to coaches, to not address behavior concerns. I mean, I could just imagine that would cause a lot of potential issues.
Let's just say that some coaches got away with more than others.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure.
And that's not. I didn't like that, and
Yeah,
matter of fact, I hated it, and I didn't. And I did never. I would like to think that I never treated the guy who was assigning the games or picking the games any different than the guy that was his opponent, and I think that may have hurt me as far as getting the games that I could have,
yeah,
in some way, because I didn't really care. I said, yeah, okay. It's a high school basketball game, and this guy's got this power over me
right.
that I'm not going to allow to happen. And it hurt my schedule. There's no question about it. Instead of getting 30, 40, 50 games, I would get 15 or 16 or 17 games.
Yeah,
And it wouldn't be at the highest. It wouldn't be at the highest level. I would get some of the lower class games, which is fine. I wanted to work.
yeah.
So
Wow. Okay.
the
So,
politics in it was really tough.
right. Did the onboarding process look similar back then for, being registered with the state? Did you have to go to the local clinics? Was there an exam? Like, were there scrimmages? What did that look like back in 1980?
All of the above. You paid your dues. We were an IAABO, International Association of Basketball Officials. We were an IAABO Board 60 up in Rochester. You started out. You paid your dues, literally money, not your time. And then you would get assigned either CYO, which is like a Christian basketball league, a church league on Sundays with 14, 15-year-old 7th and 8th grade kids or high school kids. You would do those games, and if you felt that if someone would observe you and felt that you could do a good job at the high school level, then they would put you on a JV game. And you would probably do JV games for minimum 2 to 3 years. You'd have to pass the written test, IAABO written test with an 86 or better, and a lot of people struggled with it. So now that I think the test is a lot easier. The test is the same. The process is easier. They allow it open book. You can take it over several days. Back in the day, you took it in a group of your classroom. You're just in like in a classroom of 50, 60, 70 officials, and you were timed, I think it was 2 hours or 2.5 hours they gave you to take the test.
Mm-hmm.
And you just submitted it. They'd correct it in the old school ways. They'd have the answer sheet and they would check it off. And if you didn't get an 86, you couldn't progress.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to stay as a JV official. And some people had to stay as JV officials 4, 5, 6, 7 years because they couldn't pass the test. They were probably good enough to be a referee at the varsity level, but because they didn't pass that test, they couldn't. They had to stay at as a JV official. So the processes were way different back then. There wasn't a shortage of officials, so they weren't in any hurry to move you up because they already had their guys were established and they had some veteran officials. A veteran official when I came in was 35 years old, 40 years old. Now a veteran official is 65, and it's just one of those things that And we've made it easier to pass the test. You still have to answer the questions correctly, but it is open book. You can look it up, and a lot of people need that.
Right.
I think it's better for the game that we have more officials passing the test because, if you see something on the floor that you may have gotten wrong as a rule years ago because you didn't know it and people didn't help you with it, now that you've taken it and you've actually read you've read the question, you know what the answer is because either it was multiple choice and you had you work in a group setting. So now that you know the answer, if you see that play in your head on the court, that answer will translate to you. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely trade-offs. Even when I started in Ohio, 15 years ago, 16
Yeah,
years ago, something like that. Even at that point, it was similar setup to what you were describing, where we had like level ones, level twos, and your first 2 years, I think you were a level two or maybe level three, whatever it was, where you could only work JV. And I remember sitting in the classroom taking that test. And I mean, it was a little nerve-wracking going in there. I mean, I was always a pretty good test taker, but it was still a little nerve-wracking. Like, oh, the future of my season rests on me getting enough of these answers right.
that's
Uh,
tough. That test and that test was no joke either. That's a tough
right.
test. People
Absolutely.
think
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
easy. It's not easy.
no, that mean the way that they write some of those questions
Yeah.
is meant to
A lot
trick
of
you.
times they write the same question two or three times, and you say, "Wait, did I just read that?"
Yeah.
There's a subtle word change in there, and you say,
Yeah.
"You almost have to be an attorney."
Yeah. Yeah.
Honest.
But then I think the flip side though is, I agree with you. I think it makes it more accessible to have the tests online, to have them open booked. For me, that like I take the exam every year and I sit there with my book. And even if I think I know the answer to the question, I flip to that page and read the
Absolutely.
rule and like use that as a review for the start of the season. I don't know if that's how everybody does it. I do worry a little bit. Like I do know that, I think there are a number of officials that, they talk about the answers maybe in clinics or, so they're not themselves going in and finding the answers to every question when they take the exam. So, I think there's pros and cons, but um, as you mentioned, we're in a different spot now, right? Like
Right.
I think that's something we see as a struggle across the country right now is, how do we bring on officials but still have high expectations of them when we are at a shortage in a lot of areas and we need them more than they need us at times, from the assigning standpoint. And I think that's a good illustration, maybe a little bit of where we've come in the last 46 years of, when you started, they didn't need like they had plenty of officials.
Right.
So
There was no recruiting. There was no recruiting tool at ever because you just didn't have to do it.
right, and they could be selective. They could do a tryout if they wanted, and only pick the officials that seemed like they were were going to be successful at it. Now, I think most areas they're recruiting and taking anybody that they can get and finding a way to use them. I know in North Carolina here, your first year as an official, there's no limitations on you working varsity games, like there was. I don't know if there is in Florida at this point, but right now you could sign up and take the test and go to the clinics, and if the assigner needed you, you could be thrown out into a varsity game the very first assignment. Um,
Absolutely. That's the way it is. I mean, do you realize, Ben, that many years ago that we used to have a rating form. We would rate a JV official as a varsity guy, and there was a recommendation on there to drop from the program.
really,
Just get rid of him. Nope, he's not
really.
going to make it.
So
Cut him
the
loose.
so the
Send him to
the
volleyball. Send him to this other sport. Just don't let him do basketball. He's not going to make it. Now that's not even heard of. You want to work with that. And so instead of working with that official to try to make them better or offer them things to do to make them better or give them constructive criticism or take them on the floor to show them what they're doing wrong, we just said drop them. And
wow.
that was an option. That was actually an option to just drop them from the program.
And
Today
and
that's unheard of.
and that was the varsity officials like coming in after the JV game watch the game and rate them? Is that what you mean?
Yes, so we would be responsible as a varsity official. We would be responsible for getting to the first half of the or the second first, at least half of the JV game. Usually it was the second and third quarter. We would watch the JV officials and then we would rate them, and we would seal it up and mail it off to the assigner or the board, and then they would open them up and compile those ratings at the end of the year. And if somebody got, dropped from program 4, 5, 6, 7 times, they would just call them up and say, "Hey, this isn't for you. Thank you for trying, but we don't need your services any longer."
Interesting.
Really weird.
And you had to, of course, you had to mail them back then.
We had to mail everything. Everything was mailed. I used to have to call on the phone.
Yeah.
The assignments were done A through K and then L through Z. I was L, so my time was noon to 4 p.m. on a Saturday. I'd call for my monthly assignments.
Really?
I'd write them down on a piece of paper.
To be honest, I don't think I'd ever thought about how that was done.
Yeah, that's how it was done.
Pre-internet.
Yeah, it's like prehistoric days. And if you missed an assignment, if you missed it, you're done.
Yeah.
Season's over.
Yeah, because again, you had enough officials, so you could do those
Yeah, we
things.
had plenty. I got to tell you a funny story.
Yeah.
I had a varsity assignment, and on a Friday night, but these tickets for Syracuse basketball, when they were pretty good in the '80s, became available to me. So I called my assigner and says, "Man, I'm not feeling good. I can't work tonight. I got to turn the game back in." Okay, no problem. I'm going to the Syracuse game. Wouldn't you know that one of the guys doing the Syracuse game was a Rochester guy who happened to be Division I basketball, and he knew me, and I knew him, and I gave him a little side eye. He gave me a side eye, and nothing was said. I just waved. And next day, he says, "Hey, how come Lockhart wasn't working Friday night? I saw him at Syracuse." And they said, "Well, he turned the game back, and he was sick." He goes, "He wasn't sick. He was at the Syracuse game." My schedule was just ripped apart for the rest of the season. Done. Yeah. I said, so I never did that again.
Yeah.
Now I've become the great. I am. When I say I'm available, I'm available.
Yeah.
And when I get a game, I get a game. I take it. I don't think I've turned the game back since that day.
Well, and I don't think that a lot of our newer, maybe even younger officials coming up, because I see it in my local clinics and new officials that get recruited to do high school. I don't think they understand the importance of that or the impact that turning games back has on assigners. I think that's, and maybe it's that other jobs that you work, right? If it's a shift job, for instance, okay, I need to give up my shifts. It's easy. There's so many places now that you just put on the job board or on the shift board and somebody grabs it. And it's just an easy process and really doesn't cause a lot of impact to the business. Whereas obviously with officiating, when somebody drops a game, especially if they drop a game day of or night before, now the assigner's got to scramble to try and fill those slots. And with the state that we're in with, shortages, that's very hard to do. Like they end up playing musical chairs, moving somebody here to get here. There's so many impacts that just one person dropping a game has. And I just don't think that's understood to the point that it should be by a lot of our officials. Would you agree with that?
I would agree that it's probably not understood as well as it should be. I know that it's been explained how tough it is because that it happens every season. The beginning of the season, you have your meeting, your assigner stands in front of you and says, keep your availability up to date. But unfortunately, he doesn't have the power that he once did with taking games because of the shortage of officials.
Yep.
And another unfortunate thing is I think some officials are taking advantage of that.
Yep.
And I honestly, it sucks to do that. If you're available, and it's so easy now, they made it. We use Arbiter, so there are other platforms that people use, but Arbiter is probably the best known, and it's so easy to just keep your availability up to date. Mm-hmm. Sure, do you forget things? Yes, but if you're a habitual forgetter, then it's not. You didn't forget it. You just didn't do it. You just didn't care to do it. I think I wish there was a mechanic in place where guys that were habitual, guys that turned games back in or said no. If I'm open on a Friday night, that means I'm open for whatever game we assign. Mm-hmm. If it's a girls' game, a boys' game, a JV game, a middle school game, I'm obligated to take it because I told them I would. Mm-hmm. And some guys get games. It's a girls' game, and they know that it's two bad teams. I don't want it. I'm not taking it.
Right.
You can't do that, but they do. So
right.
I think that's where we as officials some of us are taking advantage of the situation of the shortage, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's just not right. And I don't know what the fix is other than taking games away, but then you're just really biting your nose off to spite your face because you don't have anybody to backfill.
Yeah.
Like you did back in the day. You just don't. And it's an unfortunate situation, but especially down in Florida where it skews older, right? The state just skews older. But we do have a really good group of core younger officials, I'll say sub 30, that are really, really good. There's a lot of good guys that are coming up, and girls. I mean, there's some women officials that had opportunities and they've taken most advantage of them and now are doing college basketball. They've left us behind as a high school guy, as a high school official, have moved on to college. Mm-hmm. But it was great to see that they were even involved in it.
Yeah.
But those are the ones that advance. The people that take care of their availabilities, do the games. Those are the ones that advance. The guys that are always complaining about, I didn't get that game. Well, did you do everything you needed to do to get the game? And it's not just how good of an official you are. It's how good you take care of your administrative stuff. Do you respect your assigner? Do you respect your other officials? You got a crew going out. Now all of a sudden you're worried if my U1 isn't going to show up, mm-hmm. Or the guy scrambling to get somebody. And then maybe you get somebody that might not be a U1, right? Now you got to work with them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think those are great points. I don't know how I feel about no longer being in the young official category based on 30 and under.
You can expand. I'll go 40. I'll go 40 and 40.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, most of the time around here, I still feel like I'm in the young official category when I show up to games. But so Randy, let's jump in. Let's do some rapid fire here.
Sure.
So again, there's 4 or 5 of these. They're pretty quick. What's the most unique thing that you keep in your officiating bag?
I never wear it because we can't wear them, but I have a remembrance wristband for one of my fellow officials that passed away.
That's cool. What's the coolest location that you've officiated at?
Probably the Blue Cross Arena in Rochester. It's the local arena that they play all their big basketball games. The professional hockey team plays there. It's where every official wants to work.
Gotcha.
I was thinking, did I ever work at Madison Square Garden? I didn't do that, but that would have been nice. The Sarah Carrier Dome, I didn't work there, but I would say that the Blue Cross Arena.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there one call, whether it's good or bad, that sticks with you to this day?
Yes. I'll never forget it. Matter of fact, it was 2016 in Rochester. I'm doing the it was either a quarter or semifinal sectional tournament. I had the most horrible goaltending call that you would ever see in any game ever. I want that back.
Yeah.
It's 10 years ago. I want it back. I know it was bad. And the thing about making a bad call, we know it. As soon as we do it, we know it. And I said, damn, I want that one back. But they played on.
Yeah.
Both coaches understood it.
Yeah.
And they didn't hold it against me.
So did you know it as soon as
As soon as I blew the whistle, I said, what the hell did you blow the whistle for that for?
Yeah.
The ball was below the rim, and it's terrible.
Yeah. I had a basket interference call maybe 2 seasons ago, similar to that, and I blew the whistle. I'm like, as soon as I blew, I'm like, oh gosh, I probably shouldn't have done that. And then of course I go back and look at I'm going back to look at the film, and I'm just hoping that maybe I was actually right, and of course I wasn't. I mean, the ball wasn't
Film
even.
doesn't lie.
So I get that for sure. What's the rule that you most wish fans understood about basketball?
Most fans don't know any of the rules really well. But I think the most misunderstood rule is probably 3 seconds. They just don't understand that. And if they would just understand it more, you'd hear less of it because you hear the people yelling 3 seconds. It's just not happening. They don't realize that it starts after every tap or shot or whatever. The clock resets. Are they in there for more than 3 seconds? Yes, but they're legal.
Right. And it's an intent of the rule, right? It's not.
Right.
I mean, 3 seconds is intended to make sure that somebody can't just post up in the paints the entire possession and gain an advantage. But obviously, to your
So
point,
my mentor, who was an old school guy, right? He did some NBA in his early 70s. He said 3 seconds. If there's a definite advantage, don't call them till that person receives the pass. Then when they receive the pass, blow it. He goes, because if they don't receive the pass, there's no advantage.
no advantage, right?
So just wait. So
Yeah.
they might be in there 4-5.
Yeah. And then as soon as we call one,
It's over.
that's all we're going to hear the rest of the game is, well, that's 3 seconds. That's 3 seconds. So that's not saying we shouldn't ever call 3 seconds, but I think to your point, there's letter of the law and there's, game management that goes
But it's a
involved.
very liberal rule.
Yes.
Very liberal rule that
Yeah.
people don't understand.
So that's the one that you wish fans understood. What do you think is the hardest rule to officiate?
Travel. I was waffling on this between travel and block charge, right? Block charge, when you see a block or a charge and it's legit, you know it. Some of us guess 50-50. The 50-50 balls, I'll admit it right here, I'll go block. Because the charges, you're going to know, they're bang, bang. It's the travel. You have to know where the pivot foot is. And the skill level of some of these ball handlers these days is just off the charts from when it first started. When I first started officiating, the skill level of ball handlers. So you have to know when they actually pick the ball up and which is their pivot foot. Toughest call for me,
Yeah. Yeah.
travel.
Well, especially so many basketball trainers and are now teaching them to delay picking up the ball. They're teaching, all the different the Euro steps and the delays and the step backs, all those things that people call them. But to your point, it
Euro
happens
step was a
so
travel
fast.
years ago, yeah.
Yeah, it happens so fast, and we, for me, like I want to be 100% sure when I blow the whistle that it's a violation, and a lot of them they might be when you replay it in slow motion, frame by frame. There's probably a lot more travels, but unless I'm 100%, I'm not blowing the whistle. If I'm 80%, I'm not. So
No.
I'm with you. There's
I'd like to work with you, Ben.
yeah, I'm with you. It's tough. Traveling is tough.
Travels are tough. Yeah, you have to be sure.
All right, so that's all the rapid fires. So Randy, I did want to ask you. So you mentioned IAABO, and am I pronouncing that the way it should be pronounced?
I've heard it pronounced that way, but it's officially it's IBO.
I just IBO.
Just IBO. The
IBO.
A's are silent.
Okay, I'm glad I asked because
Yeah.
I've always heard and seen IBO,
Yeah.
but I guess I've been pronouncing it wrong for all these years.
Yeah.
Can you tell us so for folks that aren't familiar with what IBO is, can you talk about kind of what that organization looks like compared maybe to the National Federation?
There's some subtle differences. IAABO is International Association of Approved Basketball Officials. NFHS is National Federation of High School Basketball. So the differences vary from state to state, actually. So in New York, we had some mostly mechanical from a referee standpoint, right? The rules are the same. The rules are the rules, but there are some mechanic differences. Like, we in IAABO, you could bounce the ball across the paint on the end line to somebody going the other way, right? Where we don't have to have all those changes and switches and you've got three officials moving. You just stay where you are and just bounce the ball. I think NFHS wants you to go ball side, hand it to them. It was just more mechanical things. And I believe that with IAABO, you could work anywhere internationally. So if you want to go somewhere to work a game and you're an IAABO referee, you can do that game.
Okay. And it's mainly in the Northeast, I believe, right? With IAABO, I think
Yeah.
New York and
In Florida now, we just became IAABO.
Oh, really? Okay.
We just did, like last year.
Okay.
Last season was our first season with IAABO. And some of the IAABO teachings were just a little bit different. IAABO is like one rule, one interpretation, and everything is rule based as it is in all of it, but they want it by the book, where it kind of takes away the human element of it.
Is there any difference that you noticed in the structure, whether it's the assigners, what the associations look like for IAABO, the support that the officials get? Is there anything different that way than kind of the NFHS associations?
Yes, IAABO has tremendous training. They there's a TJ Holiday is his name. He sends out these IAABO snippets, plays to review, and you can review every day. There's a play he comes out with they ask you your ruling and then the correct ruling based upon the rules. And so I would say IAABO does better training than probably anybody around. They have more tools, if you will, to train their officials than just somebody coming up with their own way to do it. Yeah.
And is there any difference in pay structure? Anything game fee related for officials that's different that you
I can
noticed?
speak to New York a little bit because New York was tied to the level of game, like the sports were classified. Basketball, football was like class 1. Then there were other swimming and cross country were class 2. So if you were a class 1 sport, you got X negotiated by a board. Sometimes there was officials on the board that could negotiate the pay. In Florida, I know it's all state mandated. So, right now our pay in Florida, we're at $93 a game. Mm-hmm. But we're all 3-man. Every game is 3-man.
Even JV.
No, well, JV, if you're traveling far to do a double header as a crew, you'll get a JV game with 3-man.
Yeah.
But no, JV games are 2-man.
Gotcha. Are you?
But
I know.
All varsity games at all levels are both boys and girls.
So I'm curious, Randy. You've worked in multiple states for a long time.
Yeah.
So kind of looking back on that experience, right? At this point, like you've done so much in basketball. What are the keys that you think made you a successful official, and what are the keys that you think for officials that are coming up? And we talked about availability. Are there other keys that go into kind of making an official successful in 2026 in basketball officiating?
There are. One we talked about pretty much is the administrative part. You have that responsibility to take care of everything that you need to take care of administratively. That's number one. You still have to be able to officiate. Mm-hmm. You have to get better. Getting better to me means going to camps, listening to the philosophies have changed certainly over the years, right? So listening to people that have done it at a higher level. Like I reach out to Jeff Anderson. He's a good friend of mine. He's probably the number one, or he's in the top 10 officials in the country for NCAA. He's done Final Four. I think he's done it every year for the last 7 or 8 years. I reach out to him, texting him, what do you think about this? Or I'll send him a play and he'll answer me back. And I've learned so much from him just by paying attention. When he started, he used to call me. Mm-hmm. And now I'm calling him. So you have to be able to evolve as an older official too. I think you should listen to the younger guys because they now have they're closer to the age of the players than we are, right? We older officials cannot get so pigeonholed that we know everything when you really need to open up your minds and listen to the younger officials to see how they would do things, right? Because, did you ever hear the word patient whistle years ago? I never heard it.
Yeah.
Now it's a thing.
Now it's a thing, right?
It was really, really tough for me to develop that patient whistle, and I'm still a work in progress with the patient whistle. Mm-hmm. But we have some younger officials here that came up with that philosophy, and it's tremendous. They do a great job with having a patient whistle. So I'm leaning on them. How do what exactly do you do to make sure that you don't blow it too early? because that was my problem in a lot of ways. I would blow the call too early. We got to play in an N1 that we didn't have to have, right? So I think listening to everybody officiate, all of your peers, listen to them, go to camps, and just be a sponge. But most importantly, know the rule book. Because when you make a call and if you made a call that someone's going to question, but it was the rule, you'll always be backed up. But if you kick the rule because you didn't know it or you just didn't apply the rule correctly, then you're in trouble. So you must know the rules.
Have you found any? So obviously the rules, we get changes every year. We had some pretty significant ones this past season with basket interference and goaltending and such. And we've switched around where we throw in spots are the last few years. And there's all sorts of rules changes every year. Have you found ways that work for you or your association when it comes to studying those new rules and making sure that you're ready to go with those each season?
Yes. So down here, the interpreter, if you will go over the rule changes that were brought down, and he'll give his interpretation of how he wants it to be called. And it's usually pretty straightforward, but yet some officials will overthink it and I don't like that. Well, it's not your choice. So I think they made it. So the 4 points of putting the ball in play, I think it's great. I think we had a hard time adapting to it.
Yeah.
As a group of officials all across the country, it's like, where does that go out of bounds? We overthink things. We just overthink things. It's not that hard. And then the basket interference goaltending, they made that easier in my opinion. Ball hits the backboard, you can't touch it. And we've got other guys saying, well, it's got to be on its way down. I said, no, that changed. That's not what it is about anymore. But just listen to your assigner and listen to your interpreter. That's the way they want it called. That's the way you should do it.
Can you talk about the interpreter a little more? I know that's some areas of the country have, in their associations positions called interpreters. I'm not sure if that's how it works down in Florida. I know we don't have necessarily an interpreter in North Carolina. Can you talk about kind of what that role is?
Well, the interpreter role was a New York thing. IAABO had an interpreter role, and it was a member of our board, and he did just that. He interpreted the rules and how he wanted them implemented during the season. Pretty simple, right? I mean, it's not, this is, you see this happen, this is the way we want to call it. This is the way we want to interpret that rule. Florida, we have the same thing. So it's not really an interpreter's role. In our board, it's the vice president is the rules interpreter or trainer, if you will. So when the rules come down, they'll go to the VP. I'm imagining that they'll talk to it as a board, with the assigner and come up with a plan of action on how it actually, and we'll also get the national interpretation on how they want it called. And we'll just try to follow that protocol all the way down to our JV officials, make sure that we're on the same page.
Yeah.
To IAABO's point of, one rule, one interpretation, that's the goal. We don't want the same guy, we don't want different officials calling basket interference a different way than everybody else. It should be the same.
Right.
Never going to happen.
Right.
Never going to happen. But
Right.
it's what we try to do.
Gotcha. Are you seeing down in Florida right now? So I know in North Carolina we did a survey of officials a few years back, and when we're talking about age of officials, that for us, 77% of our officials in North Carolina, all sports, were over the age of 45. 51%, so half, were over 55, and 20% over 65. So we definitely, our median age is above 55. I'm curious, are you seeing a similar age dynamics down in Florida where you're at? Yeah, what does it look like down there?
Yeah, I would say that it mirrors that pretty much the same. We might be skewed a little bit older.
Yeah.
Because Florida is a retirement state, right?
Yeah.
So I've worked games where I was the youngest guy in the crew at 66. where I had a partner at 71 and 75. So we had 200 years of people on the court. And it's
Yeah.
like, holy mackerel, this is crazy. So I would think it might be a little bit older here, just from that. We've got old and we've got young, and I'm calling old as an official 55 and above.
Okay, thank you. I
Right,
appreciate that. That's a better.
55 and above are the old guys.
I like that. I like that age.
Yeah, and then youngers, the you and 40, 45 and down are the younger guys.
But so with those dynamics, like, and obviously you're 46 years in officiating. I think, have you found that over the years you've had to do different things, maybe as you've gotten older to get ready for the season, whether that's,
Oh,
mentally or physically? Can you talk
both.
a little bit about that?
Hell, yo, definitely. I have to work harder at my age to be in shape to be able to run up and down the court with the players. I have to be able to keep up with the pace of play. That's a personal thing that's a challenge that I have every year. When I can't keep up with the play, I'm going to retire. I'm going to just do middle school. I'll do something else. But my goal is to be active at a high level for 50 years. I want to be able to do a high school game, the best high school game at 50 years in. So I have to stay in shape. I have to, maintain my weight. I have to make sure that I can keep up with play. Mentally, I have to be able to get ready to officiate, because I know that it's a grind, right? The season's a long time. But what's helped me out is that I retired from work, so I don't have the stress of trying to just juggle everything around.
Right.
And you also have to have a spouse that really knows that she's going to be a basketball widow for 4 months. But getting ready for the season is something that I don't think enough officials take seriously. And it hurts them. They pull a hamstring, they tweak a knee. Maybe they're carrying 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 pounds overweight. I think they need to do a better job of getting in shape. And then prior to the season starting, you should go out and get scrimmages, do scrimmages, do a set of middle school games or some kids games or some AAU stuff, which I hate. But I would like to just see plays, so I don't want to go into the season, the first game being my first game. I want my first varsity game to be like my 15th game.
Yeah.
I've already seen plays. So we have to get ready from that state. But staying in shape is by far, I think, one of my pet peeves is when I go to a game and I see officials that their bellies are hanging over their stomachs. I know that they're not going to make it up and down the court. So therefore, they're going to guess. Either they're going to guess and have a lot of whistles, or they're not going to call anything and we're going to have a bloodbath because they can't get in position. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah. Well, Randy, let's do our last game here. So this game is called Whistle or Play On, and the way it works is I will give you a prompt, and it's something that may be a little controversial potentially in the officiating world, and you're gonna say either whistle if obviously you put a whistle on it and you think that shouldn't be a part of our officiating repertoire, or play on, meaning either you agree with it or you would let it go, and it can remain in the repertoire.
These are personal opinions, correct?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
My
Yeah,
personal opinion. All right.
yeah. All personal
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Number one, wearing a watch while officiating,
Whistle
and we should say for basketball officiating, obviously.
for basketball.
Obviously,
Yeah.
for football, you need a watch.
Put it in your pocket. If you're tracking steps, put it in your pocket.
Yeah. Why do you say whistle? Is that curiosity?
Well, I'm from the old school, right? You want to they were minimalists back in the day. You were clean shaven, you had short hair. You just looked professional. Your pants were pressed, your shoes were clean, your shirt wasn't wrinkled, and that's it. That was part of your uniform. It's never been part of the uniform,
Yeah.
and I don't think it should be now.
All right. Number two, helping players up from the ground.
Whistle.
Why?
The liability issue. I mean, I just don't want anybody saying, "Hey, he picked him up and therefore he hurt his back, or he made him fall, or he hurt." I don't touch the players. I don't think any referee should touch players for anything. Helping them up is a nice gesture, but it could bite you in the butt.
All right, number 3. Asking the home athletic director for a hot dog after the game.
Whistle.
Get
If
a
they
lot
don't
of-
offer it, don't ask.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's there, fine, take it if you want it, but I wouldn't ask them for anything.
Okay. All right, number 4. Carpooling to games together.
Play on. I think it's a great way to have a pregame. Right? You're carpooling. You can talk about plays. You use that as productive time to pregame.
Okay. And then the last one, facial hair for officials.
Personally, it's play on,
Okay.
but I know that it's frowned upon at the other levels. So if you want to go past high school, don't wear facial hair.
Yeah. I was assuming the whistle was coming after the first with the watch.
Nah,
But,
I don't. Because you have a beard doesn't mean you're a better official or worse official than me, because I don't. That's just a thing that was made up by somebody. They thought facial hair didn't look professional.
yeah.
Whatever.
And we're starting to see that, those judgments change. Yeah, I mean, in society, but certainly for officiating.
Sure. I mean, there's tattoos that were never even thought
Right.
of. You would never show a tattoo
Right.
when you're officiating. But if you look back, if you try to think of a D1 game, when's the last time you saw a D1 game and a guy with a beard?
Right.
I don't think they do. So it's still a thing. It's probably unwritten, but it's understood.
Well, and I think it's becoming a little more lax, kind of as we've talked about with the shortage of officials. We can't be as picky. So some of those, standards of professionalism, whether it's just shifting in, what those should be, I think it's also that we can't say no to a bunch of incoming officials because they are wearing facial hair.
I agree with you, especially at the high school level. At the college level,
Yes.
because they're making big bucks,
Right.
they can tell you what to wear, what to do.
Right. Higher expectations comes with higher pay.
Because those game fees have commas in them, and you want those checks with commas.
Yeah. Yeah. I still haven't figured out how to get one of those.
Yeah, I earned a couple of them, and they're nice, but
Yeah.
it's a lot of work, man.
So we'll kind of get to the wrap up section here, but I am curious. This show really is meant to talk about what the high school officiating experience looks like across the country, and I think it's great having you on because you've seen it from 3 different states or areas. So I'm curious right now in Florida where you're at. What does that current officiating landscape look like? Like, where are we at with numbers, with pay, with morale? Like, what does that kind of look like right now where you're at?
So the leadership of our group that I'm in right now has been very, very proactive in regards to recruiting new officials. They work well with the colleges trying to get new officials. So I think we've done a pretty good job getting to the point where we're actually onboarding some younger people that have come to the game. Pay is relative to what you're thinking. There's trade-offs, right? My colleagues in New York are making $120 a game or $125 a game, but they're 2-man.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take 3-man at 93. I think the minimum pay for an official on a 3-man game should be $100. So I think we're a little bit underpaid, and I think we'll get to $100 in the next year or two, which it's okay. But the 3-man game is a better game it's a better look for all officials for the game itself. Mm-hmm. So the more officials we can get trained to do 3-man and at $100 a game, I think would be fair in Florida. But to your point about recruiting, we've got some younger guys that have recruited younger guys, and they're friends, and they hear about it, and it starts out as beer money, then it becomes hey. They see that there's opportunities at the next level in college, and they're taking it serious, and they're becoming really good officials and putting their mind to it. Where it used to be an avocation for a lot of people, now it could become a career. Mm-hmm. You could actually make it a career. Jeff Anderson has made it a career. Mm-hmm. He's tremendous. I mean, that's what he does. He's a referee.
Yeah.
So he started out with me as, I was like his big brother, if you will, till he leapfrogged. He won't even, I got to have an appointment now to talk to Jeff. But
Yeah. Well, and I
it's
think
just,
I like that you mentioned the kind of some of the variables that go into the pay conversation too, because I think it's, we forget, okay, the game fee might be 100, it might be 120, it might be 90, it's less than that here.
sure.
But how many games do you get in the night? Are they two person or three person? How far are you driving? Like, there's a lot more kind of variables that create the full picture of pay, and I think that's like as you're mentioning that's a big piece of the puzzle.
Right.
And I mean, two person versus three person in a high school varsity game, you're gonna miss a lot. Like a two person's tough. You get a
Two
lot of
person's
holes on the
really
court.
tough. Two
So
person stuff at a JV game. Can you
yeah.
imagine two person? I was doing a 2-person game with Isaiah Stewart playing now for Detroit. It's like, wow, did I just see this kid do that at 16?
Yeah.
Dominate the game like that. Was it legal? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't see everything, but it's crazy.
Right. Um, so it sounds like you have a decent amount of younger officials coming in down in Florida. You did mention a lot are coming in from college. I know of UCF kind of being a big intramural program that then kind of funnels officials into the high school and college ranks.
Right.
Where else are the other colleges in Florida where you're pulling a
Well,
lot of
FGCU, Florida Gulf Coast University. We've gotten some people from there to officiate. There was one of our board members was actually an employee there, so he had an in,
Gotcha.
and he would put I think like a grassroots operation, either send an email out or post things on a board. We're looking for officials. Here's the pay. Blah blah blah. He did a good job recruiting from that aspect, and then, like I say, it's a snowball. They talk, and we get some officials. Some of them are going to be very 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 good, and some of them have already moved on, and then there's some that aren't going to make it.
Yeah.
But we're going to work with them as differently than it was back in the day. We're going to try to work with a body that we have that says, you can do it, and then hopefully they'll get better from watching, being trained. I had a girl that I worked with this year. My assigner put me with her. It was her first game ever. She sees me and she goes, "Hey, I know you. You used to referee my college games." I said, "Yeah, I remember." And then she couldn't referee. But first game versus last game, tremendous strides. She's going to be a great official. But the first game was like, wow.
Right.
She wanted to chase the ball and, didn't blow a whistle and looking around is like, okay.
Right. It's like drinking out of a fire hose.
And
Yeah.
she was great. She's going to be great.
Nice.
She'll be a great official. So those, that's the difference now. 30, 40 years ago, we would have cut her loose. Now we work with her, and her first game and last game was light years better. Just tremendous. And she's going to be good. So,
Is there one thing that you would fix about high school officiating? I'll leave it at that. Was there one thing you'd fix, whether it's in Florida or nationally, or is there one thing that you think we should be doing better?
man, that's a tough question. I didn't see that on here. I couldn't research it.
I
I don't.
hit it. I hit it right at the end.
Yeah, I don't know that how we could do things better. I mean, there's always a better way to do something. I believe until you. I don't think anything's perfect. Man, for the most part, we in Florida anyway. I think we do a very very good job of getting officials games, training the officials on what's going on. And I'll tell you, and people are going to think I'm sucking up here, but the lifeblood of a board is your assigner. The assigner has to know the teams. He has to know the officials. He has to know how to match you up, right? So he's not going to put 3 R's on a game that don't need 3 R's, right? He's going to put an R on the game, and he's going to put 2 lesser experienced guys, and the R is going to be responsible for making sure that the U1 and the U2 should do their jobs. And that's the assigner really has the toughest job, and it's important to have a good assigner. And I think our guy here does a tremendous job. I can see that from. I questioned him in the back of my head, like, what the hell are you doing here? And then I get to the game. I don't know who these teams are because I'm new here, right? I'm in my second year, a couple years ago. And then after the game, I said, okay, he knew exactly what he was doing. Yeah. So I think that's important to have a good assigner that knows the area, knows the games, knows the players, knows the officials.
So after 46 years, you want to get to 50, is what I heard. So you still got at least a few left here.
Yeah.
So what is it? We hear about a lot of the challenges and the negatives of officiating, but what is it that makes you keep coming back every season?
It's very simple. I love the sport. I love the interaction with the players. Just seeing their excitement, and I love interacting with coaches. When I came down here, I had to earn my stripes again, if you will. I don't know these coaches. They don't know me. They just know I'm from New York, and everybody thinks New York City. Like he's going to kill me if I don't say something right. So I'm not. I'm from upstate. I'm almost Canada. Yeah. We're nice, and I had to earn that respect from the coaches, and I also had to earn the respect as a referee with the players, because they see an old guy coming out. And they just like, can he help? Can he get gray hair? Can he run up and down the court? Do I know the language? Do I speak the lingo? I think we have to keep up with that stuff on what's going on, because social media in games has played a huge part in a rivalry that you didn't see years ago.
Right.
And that was brought to my attention. Like, these two teams are going at each other like they're crazy. They're just going. Neither one of them are that good, but they want to kill each other. And then there was a big social media argument going on back and forth for who's going to win the game. I was, oh my God. So you have to pay attention to what's happening. You have to evolve with the times. I love doing it because it keeps me young. I really feel that I think younger. I know that I don't want to embarrass myself when I go out there. So I'm going to try to stay in as fit shape as I can. And I'm going to make sure that, if he dunked the ball, which you didn't see 40 years ago, right? Matter of fact, my first year, I don't think it was legal. To now, you got dunking the ball. I want to make sure that if it's a dunk, that the next whistle would be a T. It better be T worthy, right? You don't want to just because he dunked it, you call it T. That happened a long time ago. Yeah. But I just let the play go through, and you have to just understand where they're coming from, what they're doing. You got to know the players. You got to talk to them on the court. But I talk to players a lot. I'm not coaching them, but if they ask me a question, respectfully, I'll give them the answer. I'll tell them, hey, you just weren't legal. You didn't get there in time. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. So I have to communicate is why. And it just, I don't feel 66 when I'm on the court. I feel 46, because I just love doing it. Awesome. It's a great sport.
Well, Randy, this has been awesome. I know we're getting to the hour mark here, so sure. I'll wrap it up with one last question. Is there a last thing that you say, maybe during pregame, you're about to head out onto the court? Like, what's the last thing that you tell your crew before you're about to get out there?
Is this a family show or what?
Yeah.
I'll just give you the last thing that I say. Okay. I'll just say it's become now, because it's my thing that the guys have known that it's coming. It's just 3 initials, DFU. Yeah. Figure it out. Yeah. And that's what we do. And and then when we fist bump, let's just be the best team on the court. Yeah. Awesome. Be consistent.
Awesome.
That's what I like.
Well, Randy, I greatly appreciate this conversation. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your years of experience with us in multiple different states, and I think it's awesome to hear that it sounds like things are going pretty well in Florida, and Some they have a lot of great training going on with IAABO, now that I know how to pronounce it,
Yep.
and bringing in younger officials and having a nice dynamic of officials that have a lot of experience with brand new ones coming up into the avocation.
Yeah, we
But
have a good mix here.
awesome. Well, thank you again, and
Appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Anytime we get the opportunity to talk about officiating in basketball, I think we should take that opportunity because we don't want this shortage to continue, right? And it's a great, some of the horror stories that people are hearing about, the negative gets portrayed all over the internet, right?
yeah.
But never the positive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many more positive things to officiating than there are negative.
Mm-hmm.
That I think we need to really make sure people know that.
Mm-hmm.
The crazies are going to be crazy,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
the good guys are far outweigh the bad guys
Mm-hmm.
in this avocation that we do. So we need to accentuate that.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Randy Lockhart. Thank you again to Randy for coming on the show and sharing his 46 years of basketball officiating experience. As always, if you found value in this show, please, there's a few free ways that you can help support. One is simple, just to like the video or like it on Spotify and Apple, hit subscribe. That helps us. It's totally free. And then also just share it with a friend or comment down below. Would love to hear what you think of the topics we discussed today with Randy. And are there any topics you want us to cover on the show as we get started and rolling here, ideally weekly, on the High School Ref Show? Thank you again, and good luck with your games.